Thank you, Tracy, and thank you to everybody who's joined us this afternoon. We know that you've got busy schedules and lots to do in your workday, so we appreciate you taking 30 minutes or so out of your time to join us this afternoon. As Tracy mentioned, the focus of today's overview webinar is going to really be on performance management, and goal setting is certainly a big part of that. So when we think about performance management, really there's different ways to think about it. There's different methods and methodologies. So some organizations are continuing to do some more traditional performance management with formal goal setting and then either a biannually or annual review consisting of the review of those goals as well as measuring competencies. Some are doing more hybrid approaches where we're doing goal setting, but then maybe we're doing monthly check-in of goals and then just a year-end more formal review where we're certainly evaluating competency, proficiency, and gaps, et cetera, which is an important part to not only performance management, but as that bleeds into other things such as succession planning, talent planning, et cetera. And then we also have others that are organizations that are doing and adopting more continuous performance management principles and processes. Less formal, more frequent, maybe no ratings at all in the process. So at TalentQuest, we support really the spectrum there. So our philosophy is we try to leverage the configurability of our software to meet you where you are with your processes, whether that is more traditional, whether that is more continuous performance management, or whether that's a hybrid approach. Okay, so let's take a look at some of the tools and capabilities that we have in the system. And as you would probably expect, and those of you who are familiar with our platform or have joined previous sessions, our entire talent management platform is very configurable, really designed to be configured around your processes, your content, your workflow, et cetera. It's also principally built on a notification engine so that we can proactively and automatically notify employees when it's time for them to do something such as set goals or fill out a performance review. There's also reminders emails that are built in. The whole goal here is not only to automate processes for efficiency's sake, but how can we increase the visibility into not only the workforce, but the capabilities and the skill sets and the desires and the career aspirations of our employee base. At the same time, how can we help managers better collaborate with their direct reports? How do we help them build better relationships? How do we help them provide more targeted and individualized feedback? Performance management is a mechanism to help with that, but at the end of the day, it's really about the conversation between a manager and an employee. And all of the tools that we have and all the different processes that we can support at the end of the day are building towards that. At the same time, we need to make sure that we have robust capabilities from a reporting standpoint to really understand the aggregate information and data that we have so that we can understand what are the gaps in the organization, what do we need to develop more of, what do we need to hire more of. So how do we do some of these things? So let's kind of really take a look at some of the tools that we have built into the system. I'm on our homepage here within our demo account, logged in as a manager, Carmen Hernandez. As we said, I would have received a number of email notifications, but first and foremost, I can see my task panel here of what it is I need to do. And I'm going to start when we think about kind of goal setting. So in this example, Carmen not only has to set goals for herself, but one of her direct reports has already submitted goals to Carmen. So I would have received that email, notify me of that, and then as well as informing me that I need to go in and approve her goals. So as we think about goal setting, and for those organizations that are doing that, we can start with setting corporate goals and objectives, and then have departmental objectives, and then ultimately obviously drive those down to the individual level, which is what we're looking at here. So in this case, Carmen is able to view the goals that, in this case, Ellen put in here for her to review and now can do so. So we can see that in this case, she's got a couple performance-related goals, as well as in this example, we have a development plan as part of this process. So as for a manager, I can really see high level what those goals are and any weighting differential that was placed on that. And then as the manager, I can go in and click into these to really see more details about what do we mean. Well, improve employee retention, but in this case, Ellen didn't really provide any more detailed description around that. So as we all know from best practice, we want to make these goals SMART goals. So this would give me the opportunity as the manager to add some more specificity around that, add the details of specifically what are we trying to improve that retention rate to, and when do we want to have that done by, and how are we going to measure that? So as the manager, if there's anything left out or anything I need to tweak, I can certainly make those adjustments. I can edit the weighting of the goal if need be as well. If I wanted to further add an item to her development plan or to her performance plan, it's quick and easy, gives me a wizard template to do that. And again, I can put in my details, add the descriptions, and save it off, and then submit that, and we're off and running. So as a manager, I can make those adjustments. I can then approve them. If I wanted to send these back to the employee with a note and ask them to make the adjustments, then we could easily do that. And then again, the workflow would recontinue from there. So again, very simple, very easy for me to see what, in this case, Ellen put in as her particular goals. Once we've gone through that process, the system does then provide the ability, again, if you're using formal goal setting, to allow employees to go in throughout the course of the year and document and update their progress towards completion on those goals. It's a simple, easy step. I can add any activities. I can say I'm now 40% with the particular goal, and that is continuously tracked. As we think about where we want to go from there, maybe let's now kind of fast forward a little bit. So we've had employees going in and setting those goals, but maybe throughout that period before there's any formal review, I still as a manager want to be able to document some performance related information, but maybe it's outside the realm of a formal review. So we have a performance journal that's built into the platform as well. This is one of the tools that we can use when we think about more continuous performance management. So not only as an employee do I have one for myself, but I also have one for each one of my direct reports. So Ida is somebody that is on my team. I have seen her do something very well that I want to document in here, or maybe I want to document a performance conversation that we've had. Whatever the context of that is, it gives me the ability to really freely and with no limits just document any of those conversations or any of those things that I've seen. I can even add attachments. I can choose to share that with Ida. I also have the ability to choose to share it with any future manager should she move around in the organization. So again, quick, simple, easy. Another nice use case for this is it's a great way for employees to also quickly and on the fly request feedback from their manager. So as an employee, I have the ability to do that as well. I could go to my own journal, add an entry in here, put my comment in here. Maybe I want to get feedback from my manager about something, share it with them. They're going to get that email notification, can read what I've requested feedback on. They can provide that back to me. And again, we have a recording and journal of that that can then later be incorporated into a more formal review. Okay, so let's move from there and let's take a look at kind of what could a appraisal form look like. Well, there's many different ways in which we can set these up. Again, they can include goal and rating information. They could be more open-ended questions for new hire reviews. They could be just a check-in with a number of open-ended questions. I'm going to show you one that really probably is a little bit more traditional, that can kind of incorporate both traditional processes as well as show you some of the capabilities that can be included in a more hybrid approach as well. So I've clicked into Ida's review here. We do support self-reviews and peer reviews and co-raters and multi-rater types of appraisals as well, if that's part of your process. All that is part of the configuration. In this case, I've already started working on this one, so it took me where I left off. But as you'll notice, the subway map here at the top tells me the different sections that are involved in this particular review. So it allows me to easily see what it is I'm going to need to do, where I am in the process. Another nice feature is that there's auto save built in here. So anything I click and do, nothing's going to get lost. So in this example, we've got some goals or objectives, which was a custom term that we used here in this example. And the goals that were set in the goal setting process will automatically be pulled into the review form. So all of our reviews are very template driven to be able to incorporate that. So here we can see what the goal was. I can see the progress towards the goal that Ida in this case put in here, and I can see her activities and comments that she put in. Nice little feature. I can even insert this into the comment area if I want to use that in any of the comments. The rating scale, size, and labels is all part of the configuration as well. There's no limit to that. If we want to look at competencies and rating of competencies is an important part of your process to understand, again, competency proficiencies or maybe identify potential gaps within an organization, an individual, a team, we can do so. So we can see the example here of coach and develop, the 2 behaviors that we're using to define that, and again, the rating scale. The rating scale size, as I've mentioned earlier, all part of the configuration. Another neat tool in here, oftentimes managers struggle with providing meaningful comments. We've got a writing assistant that's built in here. So as you'll notice here, when I'm talking about coach and develop, it gives me a couple simple statements here. I can choose any one of those and it gives me a statement. And then I can add the other one in. Maybe I want to change the order of these, I can do so. But it also gives me the ability to adjust the tone. Maybe I want to make this a little bit more positive. I can adjust the tone or I can make it more negative. This is all building a preview for me here that I can then insert into the comment box and continue to tweak from there. So a nice tool for you if you want to add that to your process. We can also support open-ended questions of any type, rated questions, single select, multi-select, et cetera, is all part of the process. One of the other things, 2 other things I want to point out before moving on here is, one is our talent insights. So these are all driven by information and data that come from our behavioral assessment. So those of you who joined our first webinar would have seen more of that. If you would like to refer back to it, we do have a recording and can provide that for you as well. But the whole purpose here is to help the manager better understand the employee, again, within the realm of having a more productive conversation. So in this case, it's going to tell me as the manager, what type of communication challenges am I likely to face with IDA? So not only what those challenges might be, but even better, it's going to provide recommended adjustments that I can make as the manager, again, to have a more productive conversation. Because at the end of the day, that's what performance management is all about. How do we help a manager, an employee connect to discuss and talk about where they are, what they can do to move forward in the organization, to develop their own skills, which is ultimately going to help the organization and create a more engaged employee. Another neat tool that we have is the ability to rate multiple people at one time. So as long as we have multiple people being rated on the same form, I can use the tool here to add additional people into the realm of this review. And maybe I want to be thinking about Ida and Jen and Heather as a whole. While I'm rating Ida, maybe I want to be thinking about how does that compare to how Jen does on this particular competency and Heather does. So it gives me the ability through the toolbar to rate each of one of them separately. It then gives me the ability to also provide comments. So again, not only from an efficiency perspective is this helpful, but also in the realm if I want to think about my team comparatively. A nice way to do that. As I move around in the form, again, it's going to give me the ability to continue to do so. I can always suppress this at any time, remove these individuals, or if I want to go directly into Jen's form, I can click on her name. So again, just another nice tool that's there to help your managers, your leaders in their efforts around performance management. So lots of opportunities and options that we have within the form itself. Some nice tools that we can use, again, to make the process more efficient. Before I submit, in this particular example, it's going to give me an overview of and calculate what the score is going to be based on how I filled out that form. Some clients like the ability to adjust that. That's something that we can easily support you in your journey as well. Okay, one thing else I want to mention in here, I mentioned the performance journal earlier and how we can capture those. A nice little tool with this is I can also pull up that performance journal, pin it over to the side. So now as I'm filling out this particular form and reviewing these different areas, I can see all of my previous journal entries with the form side by side from that form. So it makes it very easy for me to incorporate any of the content and information here directly into the performance form. So again, quick, easy, simple to support. One other thing to mention around the reviews, which is quite nice, that I think most of you would hope and expect, but this is completely responsive. So if you're accessing this on a mobile device, it allows me to very easily navigate around, rate this particular individual, and do all of this on a mobile device. If I want to change the orientation, simple, easy for me to do as well. An important part of any solution is to be able to work with it anytime, anywhere, on any device. Okay, so let's shift gears just a little bit, and I want to give you a quick little preview of another solution we have coming towards the end of Q1, at the beginning of Q2 of next year to really support, again, more thoughts around continuous performance management. And it's a tool we are calling 2Q Connect, and it's all about scheduling check-ins and being able to connect employees together. So in this case, as we can see here, I can see what check-ins that I have scheduled here. If I want to schedule a new meeting, I can do so, and it gives me the ability to determine what I want that type to be, when it's going to be scheduled, etc. Very nice, very simple. For any check-ins that I already do have scheduled, I can go in to see what those are, jump into this particular check-in and enter the meeting room, which we see right behind us here. So if I want to add new items to a meeting agenda that we're going to discuss and have and talk about performance, talk about what we're having them work on, I can add that agenda item. The nice thing about this is a collaborative agenda builder. The manager can be in it, the employee can be in it at the same time, adding items or adding notes. These notes can be made marked private or public. And as you can see, we have attachments with all of these as well. So just another tool that is very helpful here that's going to be able to allow us to support just any type of how you want process or methodology around performance management. This is going to have Outlook integration. It's going to allow you to support not only check-ins, but maybe it's goal check-ins or career conversations or whatever type of meeting that you want to be able to have, schedule, collaborate, document between your employees. It's going to be a great tool to support that. Okay, clicking back over here, a couple other things to mention when we think about performance management. We've talked about goals, we've talked about a couple different types of forms, we've talked about continuous performance management. Obviously, visibility and data analytics is an important piece as well. Well, as a manager, right on our homepage, we have our team panel as well that's going to give me some nice insights throughout the year as well. So as a manager, I want to be able to see kind of maybe what's the distribution of performance ratings for my team, or maybe quickly, how is my team doing with their goal progress? How many are completed? How many are past due? And I can actually click into a more detailed report on that. Nice set of tools and analytics there. There's also a number of standard reports that are built in that the manager can run, that HR can run, that admins can run, as well as dashboards. So we have nice visual overviews for maybe goal analysis or goal status information, as well as same thing for performance appraisal analysis or appraisal statuses as well. So this gives us the ability to not just look at a single individual, but more holistically to understand what are our competency strengths if we're doing competency analysis? Where are the gaps? That can then lead us and inform us into what do we want to do from a development perspective as we move forward. So lots of nice tools that we can use here again to support your initiatives and give you the insights that you need to help your managers be more effective managers, to help them engage their employees, to have those better conversations, which is going to lead to better retention throughout the organization and also just better company-wide performance. So with that, I'm going to now open it up for questions and see what questions we have from the audience.
Hey, Kevin, it's Tracy. So far, we have a couple of questions.
Okay.
One was a question around how do you get the employee profile data into the system initially?
Yes, good question. So we didn't touch as much on the employee profile in this particular session. The employee profile is kind of a central part to our overall platform. And if I want to look at one for one of my direct reports, I can do so. The profile that we have is really kind of a single place to store anything about the employee, whether that is their work history inside your organization, outside your organization. It's going to give you information about compensation data if we're pulling that in, talent review information and data if you're using succession planning. But we can also look at skills and that they have, and languages, academic background, etc. All of this information is collected a couple different ways. One is data coming from your HRIS system can be automated and pulled into here. There's a self-service component, so employees can update certain portions that you deem available and editable for them, as well as then our platform will also automatically update things. So when we look at a talent summary portion, for example, and to look at all of that information, other modules from the system are going to pull that in. Another example would be our behavioral assessment informing the talent insights. So we saw the insight related to a performance conversation. This is just giving the manager general insight into this person's key assets, and also what that is and how to leverage that, as well as the suggested management approach. So, and again, another neat tool when we think about how do we manage the performance of this individual and how do we develop this individual. It's not just about the point in time in which we're documenting. It's a year-round continuous process. So the more we can help our managers understand the individual that they're dealing with and giving them these insights and these guidance and how to best manage them based on their behavioral tendencies, the more effective we can be and our leaders can be in having a culture of people development.
Okay, and then there was a further question to that around the employee data and the integration with payroll.
Yeah, so certainly, I mean, a big part of any implementation is integrating with your core HRS or payroll solution, so that we can make sure we know who those employees are, who their manager is, where in the organization they are, and that's an automated process that we set up. It typically runs nightly, so it's continuously up to date. If there's key information or data that needs to be sent back into your HRS platform, we can certainly support that as well. One of the pieces that I wanted to go back to and mention is when I mentioned the talent insights and helping the manager with understand communication challenges, there are also insights that are produced for the employee, and they're more centered around helping them best prepare for filling out their self-review, as well as having performance conversation with their manager. So another very helpful tip for the employee themselves.
Okay, great. Hopefully that answered your question. This one's a quick one. It was in the performance appraisal form, what if I don't want to rate with numbers?
Yeah, so great question. We can easily suppress the numbers. We might have actually seen that a little bit in the goal portion where you can have just the label but suppress the number. Not a problem at all. Again, that's all part of the configuration. And if you want to, for those of you that want to have no ratings at all, like we said, and like you saw a couple different ways, there's multiple tools that we have to help support you wherever you may be in your journey and your methodology and how you look at performance management. But again, whether it's more traditional, whether it's more continuous and less formal, no ratings, or somewhere in between.
Okay, and then the last one, it looks like, is more of an administrator question. Can I see the status of the performance review process?
Yeah, absolutely. So at any given time, not only can use the dashboards, so we've got the performance appraisal status dashboard that you can run. There's goal status dashboards when you're in your goal setting process. So those would be two great tools to be able to use to kind of see what percentage of people are at each stage and how many are completed. There's also all kinds of standard reports that are built in to the platform as well. So when you come into our reporting area, there's a number of standard reports in here. They're all organized by module that allow you to get at any type of not only status information, but your analysis type of information as well.
Okay, thanks, Kevin. I believe that was the last question for today.
Very good. Well, I appreciate everybody's time. And one thing to mention, as Tracy mentioned, this is a series. We do have a number of more that are remaining. As you can see here, the dates that those will be available, and you'll certainly be seeing invitations and some marketing emails about this as well. So thank you for your time this afternoon. We appreciate you taking the time out of your busy day. Hope that you found it helpful, and look forward to answering any specific questions that you may have for your process or your organization.